encounter this young man sitting in a white robe. But I just want us to sort of go back just a couple of days back into Holy Week and remember what was going on. As you recall, Jesus comes in. He comes in from the periphery. It's interesting he says go back to Galilee because he's coming from Galilee. His beginnings where there were healings and exorcisms and there was confrontations, but there was this time of feeding. But he comes from the periphery of the center of power, Jerusalem. He comes from the outside, and he comes marching in. And of course, as he comes into Jerusalem, he has this encounter. He has this encounter in the temple where he cleanses the temple. And in many ways, he basically encounters and takes on really the power structures that be. The bankers, those who are banking, the money changers. He takes on the commerce. He takes on all of these different aspects of the city that have driven people to the margins, that have driven people to the periphery. And so he comes from the periphery to the center. And what does he encounter? What does he encounter? He encounters what, basically the same thing that Mayor Giuliani installed from 1994 to 2002. A policy of zero tolerance. You remember the phrase? Zero tolerance. Right? There was a time when the city was swept clear of the homeless. It was a time the city was swept clear of the vendors. It was a time that the city was swept clear of any sort of troublemakers so that everything could be peaceful and the crime would go down. And in those, I wish Mark were here because I'm not good at math. 94, 2002, in those 8 years, crime decreased by 1%. By 1%, after clearing out the city. Well, Jesus comes in, and basically he encounters a policy of zero tolerance. From the time he cleansed the temple, we are told they sought to kill him. And then we are told that he goes to Gethsemane, he prays, and in that moment, even one of his own insiders betrays him. One of the insiders betrays him. Right? Then he's arrested. And then he goes before Pilate. And before Pilate, he encounters exactly what zero tolerance is going to mean. It's going to mean you will be crucified. You will be put to death because we want to be rid of you and we want to drive any of these forces back to the margins. They have no belonging in the center of our lives. This message of inclusivity, this message of tolerance, this message of love, it has no place here for us who have power and control. We will drive you to the margins, and the way we'll do it is we'll make the people forget, we'll make an example of you, and we will kill you, we will crucify you. That's where the story comes to the point where Mary and Salome walk to the tomb, expecting to anoint the dead. Expecting to anoint the dead. And their biggest obstacle is who is going to roll away this stone so that we can continue to anoint the dead and anoint death itself and feel defeated. And feel defeated. And even the disciples are defeated, right? Some of them have gone into hiding, some of them have gone back to mend their nets. Some of them have gone back to reality because nobody really wants to mourn or think about what they've lost. So we'll just go back to everyday routines. Right? And yet the Easter story is about death. It's about mourning. And it's also about the unexpected. It's also about the unexpected. Mark tells us that some women were actually watching, looking for the unexpected. Looking for the unexpected. Maybe they were watching from a distance, and how many of us do that in our lives? I'd like to watch and see what's going to happen here, but from a distance. From a distance. We'll just stand back a little bit and see what's going to happen. So here they are. Right? They follow Jesus. And it's interesting because they follow him right to the end. It was fascinating going through the Monday, Thursday service, and we were doing the foot washing. And we were having the whole discussion before we were coming to the foot wash and realized that there are a lot of foot fetishes out there. There are a lot of people who don't want their feet touched. And I sometimes wonder, isn't it our feet that carry us? Isn't it our feet that carry everything that we hold inside of us? And maybe we don't like to see have other people see what we're carrying. And where our feet are leading. Yet we are told that the feet of these three women led them to the tomb, to the place of death, where they could possibly anoint death. And yet, little did they know that it would be these three women who would be the lifeline to our sense of discipleship, to our sense of hope, to our sense of faith. Little do we know that that little walk that they took to the tomb would change all of our lives. Bring us back from the margins and the places of death, the place where we don't want our feet touched, so that we could walk into the center again, the center of being loved, cherished, and celebrated as children of God, of children of life. This is where Jesus' friends walk. They walk there. The men, the inner circle, they're all hiding. But these women, their feet carried them to a place where they were able to encounter life. And they were terrified by it. It's a fascinating phrase in Mark. They were amazed and they were terrified. What is it about life that just terrifies us? What is it about life at the center of our lives that terrifies the people who are at the center of power? What is it about life that is so frightening and yet so amazing? The unknown. The unknown. How would life look like if we really were equal? What would life look like if we really could forgive instead of holding on to grudges and vengeance or resentments? What would life look like if we actually loved one another? What would life look like if we actually celebrated life as life? So Mary, Solomon get to the tomb. And they want to know who's going to roll away these obstacles to life. Who's going to roll away the obstacles of life? You know, it's so fascinating. When Jesus dies, a lot of their hopes die. When somebody in our own families dies, a lot of times our own hopes die. You know, sometimes we just get caught up in death can just feel like a huge stone in front of us. Whether it's a loss of a job, it's a loss of a loved one. Whether it's a loss or a death to the trust we once had in another person. Or maybe it's just the stones of painful memories that sit there and hold us entombed. Or maybe it's just our own past failures that keep us entombed. Keep us from walking. Who will roll away these stones this day? Who will roll away these stones? Or do you want to just go on with life living next to the tomb, ready to anoint death? It's fascinating. Resurrection is not just about going on with life. It's living life. It's not just going along with life, it's living life. It is the belief that somehow life will always have the last word over death. It is that belief. And it's so fascinating. It is so fascinating. Because we hear these words, do not be alarmed, to live life to the fullest. And where is Jesus? Where is the one who has been crucified? Where is this Jesus of Nazareth? He is risen. That's what we are told. He is risen. He is risen. He's not where Joseph laid him. He's not where the authorities and the center of power, the center of zero tolerance wanted to keep him entombed. It's interesting because the guy there, the guy in the white robe, says to the three women, "You've missed him. He's not here. He's not here. You've missed him. He's moved on ahead. He's moved on ahead to Galilee." Right? He's got other pressing business. He's got the business of life. So he's not here in this tomb. He is about the business of life. And he is about life for each and every one of us. That is what the risen Lord is about. He's not here in this tomb. He's moved on ahead. Oh, and where will we find him? Well, go tell Peter. He goes on before you. He goes back to Galilee. He goes back to the margins of society, to the margins of our very experiences, to our weakest and our darkest hours. He goes back to that place so that life can begin anew. That's the cross and that's the resurrection. He goes back right to the peripheries. He says he goes before you to Galilee. Well, what took place again in Galilee? It was the place of Jesus' relentless demonstration that life has something to say to us. That healing has something to say to us. That love has something to say to us. That compassion has something to say for us. He's gone back there. And we are told not to sit at the edge of the tomb anymore. We are told to go back to Galilee. And there you will find him. There you will find him. Back to the site of ministry amongst us. Back into the world. Don't sit by the tomb. Go back into the world. Go back there because he goes ahead of you as he has promised. He has promised to give you life and life in abundance. Go there. Go back into the world. Go back into the place where you can proclaim life. Amen.